Welcome to TISAX, the Trusted Information Security Assessment Exchange. This video contains all you need to know to go through the TISAX process. This video may help you in terms of how to deal with the information security requirements at the core of the TISAX assessment. So establishing and maintaining an information security management system, which is ISMS, it is already a complex task. But proving to your partner that your information security management is up to date is even more complex and difficult. Generally, the TISAX journey starts when one of your partners requested that you prove that your information security management complies with a defined level according to the requirements of the information security assessment, which is ISA. And now you want to fulfill this request, which is from your partner. So this video may be helpful for the companies that need or want to prove a defined level of information security management according to the requirements of Information Security Assessment ISA. So let us start with this journey. Information security in the automotive industry is a key success factor for the automotive industry. It is important for the exchange of design data in development processes, functional security of manufacturing processes, automated data exchange between network production systems, as well as for the availability and reliability of the production. This also applies to vehicles which have long been computers on four wheels. As a service provider or supplier for the automotive industry, a company must prove to the customers at regular intervals whether it complies with standardized and specific requirements relating to information security. Trusted Information Security Assessment Exchange, that is TISAX, is a common assessment and exchange mechanism in the automotive industry and beyond. We all know German automotive industry is most innovative. Long time ago, the automotive industry formed an association that aimed to refine and define the standards that suit their specific needs. The Verband der Automobile Industry, VDA, is one of them. The German Association of the Automotive Industry, which is VDA, unites almost more than 650 manufacturers and suppliers under one roof. Its members develop and produce cars and trucks, softwares, trailers, bodies, buses, parts, accessories, and all new mobility offerings. In the VDA working group that deals with the information security, several members of the automotive industry came to the conclusion that they have similar needs to the existing information security management standards. Their joint efforts led to the questionnaire that covers the automotive industry's widely accepted information security requirements, which is called as Information Security Assessment ISA. It is intercompany test and exchange mechanism based on VDA Information Security Assessment. So TISAX has been developed under the guidance of VDA to ensure a unified level of information security. So TISAX brings standardization, quality assurance, and mutual recognition of audits. Now imagine some German OEM as your partner for whom you are the supplier. Your partner has confidential information and partner wants to share it with you as a supplier. The cooperation between you and your partner creates value, and the information your partner shares with you is an important part of this value creation process. Therefore, the partner wants to protect the information appropriately. The partner wants to be sure that you are handling this information with due care. But how can your partner be sure that the information is in good hands? He cannot just believe you. Your partner needs to see some kind of proof. And here comes VDA and ISA in the picture. Now there are two questions. Who defines what secure handling of information means? And second question is, how do you prove it? And from here your TISAX journey starts. You and your partner are not the only ones facing these kind of questions for the first time. Almost everyone, every partner, every supplier has to find answers to these questions. Instead of independently creating a solution for a common problem every time, A standard way of doing it removes the burden of creating everything from the scratch. While defining a standard is a huge effort, it is made only once and those who follow it benefits every time. There are surely different views on what is the right thing to do for protecting the information, but due to the various benefits, most companies settle on defined standards. A standard is a condensed form of all proven and time-tested best practices for a given problem. Standards like ISO 27001, which is about Information Security Management System or ISMS, and their implementation, establish a state-of-art way to securely handle confidential information. A standard like ISMS saves you from having to reinvent the wheel every time. More importantly, standards provides a common basis when two companies need to exchange confidential data. While some companies use the ISA for internal purpose only, others use it to assess the maturity of the information security management of their suppliers. In some cases, a self-assessment is sufficient for the business relationship. However, in certain cases, companies conduct a complete assessment of their suppliers' information security management, including on-site audits. Along with generally increasing awareness of the need for information security management and a spreading adoption of the ISA as a tool for information security assessments, more suppliers were facing similar requests from different partners. Suppliers were asked by their partners to prove their level of information security management. Showing the auditor after auditor the same information security management measures and controls is simply not efficient. What can be done to make this more efficient? Will it help if the report of any one auditor could be reused for different partners and different auditors? OEMs and suppliers in the ENX working group that is responsible for maintaining the ISA listen to their supplier complaints. Now they offer an answer to their suppliers as well as to all other companies in the automotive industry to the question that how to prove the security. And the answer is TISAX, Trusted Information Security Assessment Exchange. The TISAX process usually starts with one of your partners requesting that you prove a defined level of information security management according to the requirements of Information Security Assessment ISA. To comply with that request, you have to complete the three-step TISAX process, which is registration, assessment, exchange. So the first step is registration, and in every step there are multiple sub-steps. So first step is registration, in which ENX gathers the information about your company and what needs to be part of the assessment. The main purpose of TISAX registration is to gather the information. For that, ENX uses an online registration process to help you provide this information. It is a prerequisite for all subsequent steps and it is subject to a fee. During the online registration process, you have to provide contact details and billing information. You have to accept terms and conditions, and you can define the scope of your information security assessment also. So far, you have been as the supplier and you are here to fulfill a requirement for your customer. TISAX itself, however, does not really differentiate between the different roles. For TISAX, everyone who registered is a participant. You as well as your partner participate in the exchange of information security assessment results. Typically, you need to sign two contracts. The first contract you enter is between you and ENX Association, which is the TISAX Participation General Terms and Conditions or TISAX Participant GTCs. And the second contract is between you and one of the TISAX audit providers, whatever you will choose. Next important step is in the registration process is to define the assessment scope. Every part of your company that handles your partner's confidential information is part of the assessment scope. You also have to define your assessment objective during the registration process. For example, info high, info very high, proto parts, proto vehicles, test vehicles, proto events, data protection, special data, I'll be talking about this in further part of the video. Second step is assessment. You go through the assessment which are conducted by one of the TISAX audit providers which you have selected. During assessment, there are 4 sub-steps: assessment preparation, audit provider selection, information security assessment, and assessment result. In the first step, assessment preparation, you have to prepare for the assessment, the extent of this maturity level of your information security management system. Your preparation has to be based on the ISA catalog. I'll be talking about ISA catalog in further part of the video. The second sub-step is audit provider selection, where you have to choose one of the TISAX audit providers. The third sub-step is information security assessment, where your audit provider will conduct the assessment based on an assessment scope that matches your partner's requirements. The assessment process will consist of the initial audit at a minimum. If your company does not pass the assessment right away, the assessment process may require additional steps. The fourth sub-step is assessment result. Once your company passes the assessment, your audit provider will provide you with the official TISAX assessment report. Your assessment result will also receive TISAX labels. The third step is exchange. You share your assessment results with your partner. Your third and last step is to share your assessment results with your partners and interested parties. The content of the TISAX assessment report is structured in terms of levels. You can decide up to which level partner will have the access. Your assessment result is valid for 3 years. Assuming you are still a supplier of your partner, then you will have to go through the 3-step process again after the 3 years. You have to define your assessment objectives during the registration process. The assessment objectives determines the applicable requirements that your information security management system has to fulfill. The assessment objective is entirely based on the type of data you handle on behalf of your partner. Some partners may request you to get TISAX assessed with a certain assessment level or AL instead of specifying an assessment objective. There are currently 8 TISAX assessment objectives, and you have to select at least one assessment objective. You may select more than one also. The assessment objective is a key input for the TISAX process. You start into the assessment process with the assessment objectives, and if you pass the assessment, you receive the corresponding TISAX labels. So if your partner requires you to get the TISAX label handling of information with high protection needs, then you have to select handling of information with high protection needs as your assessment objective. The assessment objective, handling of information with high protection needs, is the minimum for a TISAX assessment. Additional assessment objectives are optional. However, depending on the information which you handle, you may have to add objectives. Some assessment objectives have dependencies with other assessment objectives. If you need to achieve the assessment objective, protection of prototype parts and components, then you have to also automatically achieve the assessment objective, handling of information with high protection needs. Ideally, your partner tells you precisely which assessment objectives you have to achieve, but you may select the assessment objective based on your own judgment if you want to get TISAX assessed before a partner asks for it. Now you may derive the protection needs like high, info very high, from the documents classification of your partner on request from your partner. Protection of prototype parts and components, protoparts. This is applicable for all companies that manufacture, store or use customer provided components or parts classified as requiring protection at their own locations. Requirements for physical security and for security considering the surrounding area, organizational requirements and specific requirements for handling prototype of this assessment. Protection of prototype vehicles, proto vehicles. For all companies that manufacture, store or use customer provided vehicles classified as requiring protection at their own locations. Requirements for physical security and security considering the surrounding area, including the existence of protected garages and workshop areas. Organizational requirements and specific requirements for handling prototypes are part of this assessment. After a successful assessment, you automatically receive the TISAX label protection of prototype parts. Handling of test vehicles. For all companies that conduct tests and test drives, for example test drives on public roads or test tracks, with customer provided vehicles classified as requiring protection. Organizational requirements, specific requirements for handling prototype, and handling of vehicles during the test drives in public and on test tracks are part of the assessment. Requirements for physical security for security considering the surrounding are not necessarily part of the assessment. If your locations are equipped accordingly, then I recommend also selecting the assessment objective protection of prototype vehicles. Protection of prototype during the events and film or photo shoots, proto events. For all companies that conduct presentation or events, for example market research events, marketing events, and film and photo shootings which customer provided vehicles, components or parts classified as requiring protection. Organizational requirements and specific requirements for handling prototype, including requirements for presentations, events and films and photo shootings is protected in public are part of the assessment. Data protection. If you handle personal data as processor according to article number 28 of GDPR, then you probably have to select data protection as an objective. Data protection with special categories of personal data. If you handle special categories of personal data like health or relief as a processor according to article 28 of GDPR, then you probably have to select data protection with special categories of personal data. If you have precise requirements from your partner, you usually don't need to discuss your assessment objectives with your partner. However, if you don't have precise requirements from your partner, I strongly recommend consulting your partner before initiating the assessment process. Now I'll tell you what are the different assessment levels. Assessment level 1, AL1. Assessments in assessment level 1 are mainly for internal purpose in the true sense of the self-assessment. For an assessment in the assessment level 1, an auditor checks for the existence of a completed self-assessment. He does not assess the content of the self-assessment. He does not require further evidences also. Results of assessment in assessment level 1 have a low trust level and are thus not used in TISAX. But it is of course possible that your partner may request such a self-assessment outside of TISAX. Assessment level 2, AL2. For an assessment in assessment level 2, the audit provider does a plausibility check on your self-assessment for all locations within the assessment scope. The auditor supports this by checking evidences and conducting an interview with the person in charge of the information security. The audit provider does the interview generally via web conference. At your request, he can conduct interview in person also. If you have evidence you don't want to send to the audit provider, you can request an on-site inspection. In this way, the audit provider can still check for your eyes only evidences. Assessment level 3, AL3. For an assessment in assessment level 3, the audit provider does a comprehensive verification of your company's compliance with the applicable requirements. The auditor uses your self-assessment and submitted documentation to prepare the assessment. But in contrast to assessment level 2, the auditor will verify everything. He will examine documents and evidences, conduct planned interviews with process owners, observe local conditions, observe the execution of the process, and conduct unplanned interviews with process participants. Now, what is the difference between AL2 and AL3? The two approaches differ significantly. For assessment in assessment level 2, the auditor won't verify everything. He will only check the plausibility. Therefore, the audit provider can't use the result of an assessment in assessment level 2 as a basis for an upgrade to assessment level 3. The effort for an upgrade to assessment level 3 are essentially the same as for a new initial assessment. Now, what is plausibility check and verification? A plausibility check is checking for whether something exists and looks right. In contrast, the verification means really checking that something is what is claimed to be. Now, one important thing. TISAX does not necessarily require you to subject all of your own suppliers to the same requirements. If your assessment objective is information security with very high protection needs, this does not automatically mean that your own suppliers have to achieve the same assessment objective. It does not even mean they need to have TISAX labels at all. But you still have to check for all your suppliers whether using their services increases risks or introduces any new risks for you. The Information Security Assessment (ISA) is a criteria catalog published by the German Association of the Automotive Industry (VDA). It is the automotive industry standard for information security assessment. In this VDA document, we have three criteria catalogs. First is information security, second is prototype protection, and third is data protection. Each criteria catalog has its own Excel sheet. The core of the ISA is the criteria catalog information security. The questions in this criteria catalog are mandatory for all TISAX assessments, irrespective of what is your objective. The other criteria catalogs are optional. Their applicability depends on your assessment objectives. For example, if you have selected the assessment objective data protection, then you will have to answer the questions in the criteria catalog of information security as well as data protection. In the table, I have given all the assessment objectives and respective ISA criteria catalog. Like for handling of information with high or very high information protection needs, you have to comply with information security criteria catalog. Similarly, what is applicable for prototype protection and what is applicable for data protection is also given in the table. Each assessment objective maps to a criteria catalog in the ISA. Now, let us talk about the different objectives and respective catalog document requirements. So on the screen, I have given the specific requirements for the objectives of handling of information with high protection needs and very high protection needs. As per these requirements, the columns requirements must and requirements should are compulsory for both the objectives. Plus some additional requirements are required if applicable. On this screen, I have given the requirements for protection of prototype parts and components and protection of prototype vehicles, for which the requirements of the handling of information with high protection needs is compulsory. In addition to that, few other requirements related to physical and environment security, organizational requirements, and handling of vehicles and components and parts are also applicable if required. On this screen, I have given the requirements for handling of test vehicles and protection of prototypes during the events and films and photo shoots, for which the handling of information with high protection needs are compulsory, plus additional requirements as per the criteria catalog protection prototype related to organizational requirements, handling of vehicles, components and parts, and requirements of trial vehicles or requirements for events and shootings are also applicable as required. On this screen, I have given the requirements for data protection and data protection with special categories of personal data. Now, all the requirements which are applicable to the assessment objective, handling of information with high protection needs or very high protection needs are compulsory as per the requirement, plus the requirements of data protection criteria catalog are also applicable. These are different TISAX audit providers throughout the globe. You have to check which audit providers are available in your region, in your area, and you are free to choose any audit provider as per your requirements, which fits into your requirements, and you can choose that audit provider for your TISAX journey. At the end, why KONARK? Why KONARK Solutions and Services? So basically, KONARK is a team of industry experts with functional experience of individuals more than 25 to 30 years. We always try to implement TISAX levels and adapt to customers' existing processes. We have a strong set of reference documents with different types of risks involved. We always provide support for various technologies and frameworks. We focus on achieving the objectives and goals through fair practices and diligence and honesty. We work with various audit providers, so we exactly know what are the requirements from different audit providers and what are the requirements of TISAX. And we have a proven success, a track record of 100% success rate. As you can see on this screen that we are into ISMS, BCMS, ITSM, PIMS and QMS, these kind of ISO standards. We are into implementation, audit, maintenance, everything. We also provide services for CMMI implementation, TISAX implementation, HIPAA and GDPR implementation. We conduct gap analysis, we conduct internal audits, we conduct pre-certification audits, we conduct functional audits, we also conduct bank audits, DCDR audits and financial institution audits. We are also into technical and system audits and VAPT of the systems. Till today, we have completed 150 plus assignments successfully. We have conducted almost 100 plus audits at different organizations throughout the globe. We have trained 5,000 plus candidates till today in different domains. Currently, we have 50 plus clients across the globe with 10 plus years of existence in the market. So come, let us start your TISAX journey with us. Please contact us for your TISAX journey.